A lady in red is a ghost, usually a prostitute or a former lover of someone who was killed in a bad circumstance, whether they were murdered or committed suicide. I'm going to be going over all of the notable ones, nothing that's like, oh, my buddy Craig saw one, so now it's on a ghost tour. The first one is in North Tonawanda, New York. A lady in red is said to be haunting the Ghostlight Theater. It was seen in the 2014 Christmas Carol rehearsals, as well as people hear it slam doors or they hear footsteps around the theater. One of the accounts from the theater goes, I have been involved in shows here, and at one of our anniversary parties, I was sitting in the audience listening to the Don, artistic director, speaking about his thankfulness of all we have done, when someone pulled my hair. My son was sitting next to me, but he was on the opposite side and would have not been able to possibly maneuver his hair around to where my hair got pulled. I looked around and no one else was close enough to me to have done this, and those also sitting in the audience did not see anything and looked at me like I was crazy. Quite creepy. Not sure why they chose to pull my hair, but I do not like to be alone anywhere in that theater. Another story, this time from Tom P. Last time I was in that place, I did a voice recording on my phone and picked up a voice of a little girl saying, "Oh darn." What I was in there was a little girl on the ground. Also got a few EVPs saying God's house and our house. We did an investigation of the place and got a shadow in the green room, K2 meters going off with flashing lights on and off. Would like to do another investigation again sometime in the future. Ghostlight Theater is a really interesting place to visit, especially for the shows. Peter says, I have been there for several ghost hunts. Some nights nothing, other nights it can be very active there. The most active place is the storage room attic. Seems like a little girl is there. The room was an old playroom when the building was a church. Flashlights going on and off. I swear that something touched my hand one night when I was on the balcony. Amazing building, great shows, hidden gem of North Tonawanda, and active ghosts.
So it's mostly feelings for me. Like I've felt someone tug on my costume before and I'll turn around and I'll be alone in the room. That's happened a few times.
Most haunted spot in the theater, Don says, is this tiny winding staircase.
You sit here and you hear someone coming around the bend, and at least a dozen people have experienced that.
Over the years, cast members have heard, seen, and even photographed ghosts. There was an unscripted spirit in their Christmas Carol production.
It appeared live on stage, standing right behind the actor who played the ghost of Marley.
Another sighting is in Wekesser Hall in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. It's said to be haunting the Wekesser Hall, and it was built by Frederick Wekesser in the 1900s. The story goes, a lady was setting up for a meeting that day, and she sees someone sitting on the stairs, a lady wearing a red dress. She thinks nothing of it and walks on by, and after setting up for the meeting, she sees a picture above the doorway that says Mrs. Wekesser, and she notices that it's the same person that was sitting on those stairs. So she freaks out and puts in her letter of resignation later that day. I would say it's unlikely that Mrs. Wekesser was actually a lady in red, since she died at the age of 93, though her cause of death was not listed. Most of the time when people die at 93, it's not due to heartbreak or murder, it's probably just due to being super old. So, the Drake is often called the second most haunted hotel in all of Chicago. How this lady in red died was she saw her lover with another person at a party, so she went up to the top floor, which was the 10th one, and jumped off. People still claim to see her on the 10th floor and in some of the ballrooms or the upper floors.
Just walking in the ballroom, Becky got a picture.
I was compelled to go into one of the dark rooms, which was a ballroom. In doing so, I snapped a picture, and when I snapped the picture, I come across a lady sitting in a chair, and it frightened me so much that I threw my phone on my friend, and I ran out of there, but I knew I caught a ghost. There's a silhouette of a lady sitting in a chair. It was really bright when I took the picture. I was a little frightened, but I didn't feel like it was a threat or anything.
At Wesleyan University in Illinois, Mrs. Desmonget is claimed to be haunting the I House, otherwise known as Kemp Hall. She died not long after moving to the house in 1908, and her husband later sold it to the university in 1911. An account from the university. I lived there for a year in the 1990s in the room with the big mirror. We didn't see anything in the mirror, but things in the room would go missing. I put a hairbrush on my dresser, turned around, and when I looked back, it was gone. My roommates had similar experiences. If you said, "Give it back," the item would appear. With the hairbrush, I said it and the brush was on my bed 5 minutes later. We each heard what sounded like a child giggling at different times when we were alone in the room. My roommates were convinced it was a harmless child ghost, but it sometimes felt very scary to be alone there. I was working on a paper on a bright sunny day with my back to the room. My friend was sitting in the middle of the room reading, and I heard my name whispered loudly in my ear. He heard it too. Blake Street Vault is a former bar in Denver, Colorado. It's said to be haunted by a lady in red known as Lydia, and it's said that she either died because, as a John or a prostitute, someone couldn't complete and decided to take it out on her. Or someone discovered her body wasn't for sale, so they killed her in a fit of rage. The building closed down in 2017, unfortunately, so there's no more tours. Another name for Lydia would be the Brown Lady because some of the accoutrements and frills on her were brown and not red. In Phoenix, Arizona, a Redditor shares their story in the Westward Ho. A friend of mine shot a film in the basement of that building. I helped him for a few weekends. I had no idea at the time the building was one of the most haunted buildings in AZ. The basement had no natural lighting and very little electrical lighting outside of the stairs and elevator. Had a pretty weird encounter the first day. A woman was waiting for the elevator dressed in old clothes that were outdated. The building is low-income assisted living, so a lot of people we encountered there were a little off, so when we saw her we didn't think much of it. Within about a minute of passing her in the basement, we turned around to find her gone. The elevator was out of order, and unless she walked into the pitch black of the building, which is totally possible due to the eccentric nature of some of the residents, she disappeared completely. Never saw her again. But after that, had a few instances of cold spots and hairs raising on my neck. Could be all in my head, but absolutely a creepy location. The St. Anthony is said to be haunted by a lady in red. It's said that she rushed into the bathroom, only to have a heart attack and not be found until several hours later. People claim to see the stalls in the woman's bathroom flinging open and shut randomly. On geocaching.com, a user from Puerto Costa, California posted this story about a woman in red. Locals and frequent visitors alike seem to be all too familiar with a nightly visitor, a woman in a red hood walking with her border collie. This woman frequently appears along McEwen Road, almost always shows up between the hours of 3:30 and 5:30 a.m. Many have reported seeing her and her dog on the side of the road as they drive up and down. Usually she is covering her face, though the few who have seen her face report to her to have glowing orange eyes. Reports range all along McEwen Road, but most frequently have been reported at this location. As far as I know, there is no backstory to the mysterious identity of this woman or what happened to her. May her spirit rest in peace. If you've ever seen Supernatural, you'll remember the Trickster episode where the Trickster tricked this guy into thinking he got abducted by aliens and that he was probed by them. In this dancing scene, though, where he's forced to dance with the aliens after all of that, they play the Lady in Red song.
It made me slow dance. Lady